I was fixing our broken coffee grinder at 3 in the morning when Candace's Porsche purred into the driveway. The familiar sound of German engineering mixed with guilt. That's what 22 years of marriage teaches you to recognize. She'd been at another team-building retreat at her boss's villa, the third one this month. Funny how team-building always seemed to happen when Victor Paxton needed his ego stroked. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The front door creaked open with the stealth of someone trying not to wake a sleeping husband. Too bad for her, this husband had been wide awake since midnight, nursing a beer and contemplating the fascinating mechanics of our Cuisinart. Amazing how you can learn to fix anything when you've got enough rage and YouTube tutorials. Jack, you're up late? Candace's voice carried that particular strain of someone caught doing something they shouldn't. She stood in the kitchen doorway, still wearing her black cocktail dress from whatever business dinner had kept her out until dawn. I held up her passport and her phone, the phone she'd left charging on the kitchen counter, the phone that had been buzzing with notifications all evening. Lose something? Her face went pale in the fluorescent light. Jack, don't be childish. I'm not being childish, Candace. I'm just starting my upgrade. I set down my beer and picked up her phone, scrolling to the video that had been sent to her around 11 p.m. Want to see what your boss thinks of our marriage? The video was from last week's office party. Victor Paxton, all 6 feet of silver-haired arrogance, holding court with a martini in one hand and his other arm draped around my wife. The audio was crystal clear. Someone had been recording from close range. Candace deserves better than what she's got at home. Victor's voice slurred through the phone speaker. I mean, Jack's a nice enough guy, but he's just a starter kit husband. Basic model, gets the job done, but no real features. Me? I'm the luxury upgrade she's been waiting for. The men around him had laughed. My wife had laughed too. I watched Candace's reflection in the black phone screen as the video played. She looked like she was going to be sick. Jack, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I stood up, pocketing her phone. Victor Paxton thinks I'm a starter kit. Basic model. Well, let's see how he handles a factory recall. My phone buzzed. Text from my accountant, right on schedule. Everything's liquidated, Jack. All $38 million transferred to the new accounts. The villa sale goes through Monday morning. Candace grabbed the counter. Jack, what did you do? I upgraded our situation. The house, the villa, the investment portfolio. It's all in my name, remember? You insisted on that for tax purposes. I smiled, feeling something cold and satisfying settle in my chest. Turns out starter kit husbands can be pretty efficient when they need to be. By Monday morning, Candace had discovered just how efficiently a starter kit husband could dismantle a luxury lifestyle. I'd spent the weekend changing locks, canceling credit cards, and having a very productive conversation with my sister Dana, who happened to work in HR at Victor's biggest competitor. You should see her at the bank, Mason, my foreman, reported over coffee. He'd been at First National when Candace tried to access our joint account. Screaming at the teller about some kind of mistake, security had to escort her out. I grinned, adjusting the new security camera I'd installed in my workshop. No mistake, just a policy change. The workshop had become my command center. 25 years of building homes had taught me the value of good surveillance equipment and better planning. Gabe, my old drinking buddy and current security consultant, had helped me install cameras throughout the villa, legally, since I still owned it for another few days. Jack, this is getting serious, Gabe said, monitoring the feeds from his laptop. Candace and Victor are at the villa right now, planning some kind of party for Wednesday night. Big celebration, sounds like. I leaned over his shoulder, watching my wife and her luxury model boss planning their future in my house. Victor was wearing one of those expensive Italian suits that cost more than most people's cars. Candace had on the diamond necklace I'd bought her for our 20th anniversary. What kind of celebration? Engagement party, from what I can hear. Victor's telling people he's finally found a woman worth upgrading his life for. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a circular saw. Let me see the sprinkler system blueprints, I told Mason. I think it's time for a safety inspection. Wednesday evening, I sat in my truck outside the villa, watching through my phone as Candace's engagement party got into full swing. 50 of the city's most important people, all gathered to celebrate her upgrade from starter kit to luxury model. Victor had spared no expense. Ice sculptures, champagne fountains, a string quartet playing on the back terrace. At exactly 9 p.m., Victor stood up to make a toast. I watched him raise his glass, that smug smile spreading across his face as he prepared to humiliate me in front of half the town. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate love, and more importantly, to celebrate upgrading your life when you find something better. The crowd laughed politely. Candace beamed beside him. Some people settle for the basic model, reliable, functional, gets you from point A to point B, but life's too short for starter kits when you can have the luxury edition. More laughter. I pressed the app on my phone. So here's to Candace for having the courage to trade up, and here's to... The fire alarm system erupted. Every sprinkler head in the villa activated simultaneously, drenching the party in a torrential downpour of chemically treated water. The string quartet scrambled for cover, their instruments ruined. The ice sculptures became meaningless as guests fled, designer dresses and tailored suits soaked through. Victor stood frozen in the center of it all, his toast forgotten, his expensive suit clinging to his body like a wet rag. Candace's carefully styled hair hung in dripping strands around her face. I rolled down my truck window and called across the lawn. Sorry about the malfunction, folks. Sometimes these luxury systems are more complicated than they're worth. The next morning, I changed the locks on the villa. When Candace showed up with her suitcases, she found herself locked out of both her old life and her new one. She pounded on the front door. "Jack, open this door right now." I opened it, coffee mug in hand, wearing my oldest work clothes. "Something I can help you with, ma'am?" "Don't you dare ma'am me. This is my house, too." "Actually, it's not. Check the deed. Always has been in my name, remember? For tax purposes." I took a sip of coffee. "But hey, I'm sure your luxury model can find you somewhere to stay." "Jack, please, we need to talk about this like adults." Adults don't cheat on their spouses and then mock them at office parties. Adults don't call their husband of 22 years a starter kit. I started to close the door. "But you're right. We should be adults about this. That's why I'm handling everything through lawyers from now on." The door clicked shut. Through the security camera, I watched her stand there for 10 minutes before finally getting back in her car. Dana called that afternoon with intelligence from the corporate world. "Victor's in trouble, Jack. Word's getting around about the party, and some board members are asking questions about his judgment. Apparently, this isn't his first affair with a subordinate." "Tell me more." 3 NDAs in the past 5 years. All settled quietly, all involving married women who worked under him. The board's been looking for a reason to push him out anyway. His division's been underperforming. I grinned. "Think you could arrange for that information to reach the right people?" "Already have. My friend Janet sits on their ethics committee." Friday night was the annual Founders Day fundraiser at the Civic Center. The whole town would be there, including Victor and Candace. I put on my best suit, the navy blue one Candace had bought me for our anniversary, and made my entrance fashionably late. The ballroom buzzed with conversation, the kind of small-town social event where reputations were made and destroyed over cocktails and small talk. I spotted Victor immediately. He was holding court near the bar, Candace on his arm like a trophy. I walked over, nodding to neighbors and business contacts along the way. People were staring, whispering. The story of the sprinkler incident had spread through town like wildfire. "Victor! Candace!" I called out cheerfully. "Great to see you both here." Victor's face tightened. "Jack." How's the luxury model working out for you? No recalls yet? The conversations around us stopped. People turned to listen. Victor's jaw clenched. I think you've caused enough trouble, don't you? Trouble? I'm just a starter kit, remember? Basic functionality, nothing fancy. I smiled at the crowd. Though I have to say, some of these newer models seem to have reliability issues. You son of a... Victor stepped forward, his face red with anger. Careful, Victor. All these people are watching. Wouldn't want to damage that luxury reputation. He shoved me. Hard. I stumbled backward, deliberately exaggerating the push, and crashed into the champagne tower behind me. Bottles exploded everywhere, covering Victor in expensive Dom Perignon and broken glass. The crowd gasped. Victor stood there, dripping and humiliated, while I picked myself up with theatrical concern. Oh no! Victor, are you okay? That looked like a malfunction. I brushed glass off my jacket. Maybe you should check your warranty. Security moved in, but I was already walking away, leaving Victor standing in a puddle of champagne and his own embarrassment. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting, the kind of small-town gossip that would follow him for years. Candace caught up with me in the parking lot. Jack, stop. This has gone far enough. I turned around. She looked desperate, her perfect facade finally cracking. Has it? Because from where I'm standing, we're just getting started. Sunday morning, I was in my workshop when Mason burst through the door. Boss, you need to see this. Victor's red Ferrari sat in the Civic Center parking lot, luxury lemon spray-painted across both sides in bright yellow letters. Below that, someone had added, "Recalls available," in smaller text. I studied the photos Mason had taken. Shame about the vandalism. Hope he has good insurance. You didn't... I was here all night, working on the Henderson Project blueprints. You can check the security cameras. Mason grinned. Right. Security cameras. But Victor wasn't done. Tuesday night, he showed up at my construction site on Elm Street, where we were putting up a new office complex. I was working late, going over supply orders, when the motion sensors picked up movement. The security monitors showed Victor creeping around the foundation area, carrying what looked like a crowbar. He was trying to sabotage the concrete forms, probably hoping to cause delays and cost me money. I grabbed my flashlight and headed outside. Mason emerged from the trailer where he'd been catching up on paperwork. Company? He asked. The luxury kind. We found Victor, trying to pry apart the wooden forms that would shape tomorrow's concrete pour. In the dark, with rain starting to fall, he looked less like a corporate executive and more like a common vandal. Evening, Victor. Little late for a construction site tour, isn't it? He spun around, crowbar still in his hand. Jack, that's private property you're damaging there. Mason, you getting this on video? Mason held up his phone. Every second. Victor looked around wildly, realizing he was trapped. The construction site was a maze of equipment and partially built structures, all of it muddy from the afternoon rain. You've ruined everything, Victor snarled. My reputation, my career, my relationship. Your relationship was with my wife, Victor. That was already ruined the moment you started it. He swung the crowbar at me. I dodged easily. 25 years of construction work keeps you nimble, and Victor's momentum carried him forward into the wet cement mixer. He went down hard, landing face first in the thick gray sludge that would become tomorrow's foundation. When he struggled to his feet, his expensive suit was covered in concrete, and he'd lost both of his Italian leather shoes to the suction. Careful there, luxury model. That stuff sets permanent. Victor tried to run, slipping and sliding through the construction site in his stocking feet. Mason and I watched him flee into the night, leaving behind his shoes, his dignity, and his phone, which had fallen into the concrete mixer. Should we fish that out? Mason asked, pointing at the phone. Nah, let it set. Might improve the foundation's reception. By Thursday, Candace was desperate. Her parents had driven up from Boston, demanding I fix this mess for the sake of the family reputation. Victor was facing an ethics investigation at work, and the whole town was talking about both of them. She showed up at my door that evening, tears in her eyes for the first time since this all started. "Jack, please, we need to end this. I'll do whatever you want. Divorce, settlement, whatever. Just make it stop." I pretended to consider it. "You know what? You're right. Let's settle this like adults. Meet me at the villa tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Bring Victor. We'll work out terms." Hope flickered in her eyes. Really? Really? Time to upgrade this whole situation. Friday evening, I arrived at the villa early. Gabe had helped me make some final modifications to the security system. Nothing illegal, just some creative reprogramming. The house would be sold Monday morning, so this was my last chance to use it properly. At exactly 8 p.m., Candace and Victor arrived together. They looked nervous but hopeful, probably thinking they could negotiate their way out of the hole they'd dug. I met them at the front door, all smiles and handshakes. Come in, come in. Can I get you drinks? Coffee? I think we have some champagne left over from your engagement party." We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd watched them plan their future together through hidden cameras. Victor had cleaned up since his concrete bath, but he still looked rattled. "So," I said, settling into my favorite chair, "let's talk about upgrades." "Jack," Candace began, "I want you to know how sorry—" "Save it. I'm not interested in apologies. I'm interested in making sure everyone understands exactly what kind of people they're dealing with." I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. "See, the thing about luxury models is they come with all sorts of features. Like this security system." I pressed a button. The front door locks clicked. The windows sealed with their electronic security shutters. Victor and Candace were suddenly trapped in the living room with me. "Jack, what are you doing?" Candace's voice was rising toward panic. "Demonstrating features. For instance, this intercom system connects to every speaker in the house, plus the outdoor address system that reaches the whole neighborhood." I pressed another button. "And this little beauty connects to the local radio station's emergency broadcast system. Amazing what you can do with the right equipment and a friend in the business." Victor stood up. "Let us out of here right now." "Sit down, luxury model. We're just getting to the good part." I played the recording from the office party, the one where Victor called me a starter kit husband. But this time, it wasn't just playing on my phone, it was broadcasting through every speaker in the house, and beyond that, to the whole neighborhood. Victor's voice echoed through the villa and across the surrounding streets. "Jack's just a starter kit husband. Basic model, gets the job done, but no real features. Me? I'm the luxury upgrade she's been waiting for." Through the windows, I could see lights coming on in neighboring houses. People stepping onto their porches, listening to the broadcast. "You wanted the whole town to know about your upgrade, right, Victor? Well, now they do." But I wasn't finished. I'd saved the best recording for last, the one from their planning session earlier this week, when they thought they were alone in the villa. Candace's voice filled the air. "Jack's such an idiot. 22 years of marriage and he never suspected a thing. He actually thinks I love him." Victor's response: "Some people are just born to be used, sweetheart. Jack built us a nice life, and now we get to enjoy it without him." The color drained from Candace's face as her own words echoed through the neighborhood. "Jack, turn it off. Please." "Not yet. We haven't gotten to the really good part." The recording continued, Victor bragging about his other affairs, Candace laughing about how easy it was to manipulate me, both of them planning how they'd split my assets after the divorce. By now, a crowd had gathered outside the villa. I could see them through the security monitors. Neighbors, friends, business associates, all listening to the broadcast that was revealing exactly who Candace and Victor really were. "Here's the thing about upgrades," I said, standing up and walking to the window. "Sometimes when you install new software, you discover bugs in the system. compatibility issues, performance problems. I pressed another button. The outdoor floodlights blazed to life, illuminating Victor and Candace for the entire crowd to see. For instance, Victor, did you know that Candace forged your signature on a quitclaim deed last week? She transferred ownership of this villa to you without telling you, thinking she could hide it from me in the divorce. Victor spun to stare at Candace. What? The problem is she used a fake notary stamp, which makes the deed invalid, which means when I sell this house Monday morning, neither of you will see a penny. Candace was crying now, real tears of desperation. Jack, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You thought you could upgrade from me to him, and he thought he was getting a luxury model wife plus half my assets. Instead, you're both getting exactly what you deserve. The final recording began to play. It was from just 2 days ago, Victor and Candace in his office, planning how they'd destroy my construction business and force me out of town after the divorce. Some upgrades, I announced to the crowd outside through the intercom, just aren't worth the cost. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the luxury model and his premium accessory. Fully exposed, no warranty, final sale. I released the locks and opened the front door. Victor and Candace stumbled out into the glare of the floodlights, facing a crowd of 50 neighbors and friends who had heard every word of their betrayal. The silence was deafening. Then someone in the crowd started to laugh. Then another. Within minutes, the entire gathering was either laughing or shaking their heads in disgust as Victor and Candace stood there, completely exposed and utterly humiliated. Show's over, folks, I announced. Thanks for coming to the final demonstration. As you can see, some products just don't live up to their advertising. Victor grabbed Candace's arm, and they fled to their car, driving away as the crowd watched and whispered. I stood on my front porch, watching their taillights disappear into the night. My phone buzzed with a text from Dana. Victor's been fired, effective immediately. Board voted unanimously. Another text, this one from my lawyer. Divorce papers filed. With the recordings as evidence, she won't get a penny. House sale closes Monday as planned. I looked out at the crowd dispersing, neighbors waving goodbye, some stopping to shake my hand and pat my back. 25 years of building this community, and they'd stood by me when it mattered. The luxury model and his premium upgrade were gone. The starter kit husband had turned out to be the only one worth keeping. Some upgrades, I realized, are really just downgrades in disguise. And sometimes the basic model is exactly what you need: reliable, honest, and built to last.